Just to break it down for us, if you would, how will dredging the inlet improve access to overseas markets?
Sure. So first, I'll describe the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority and our mandate. We are a Canadian port authority, and we have a mandate under the Canada Marine Act to facilitate and enable Canada's trade. And so what that means is we work to get more of what Canadians produce, mine, harvest to customers in overseas markets. So with this dredging work, what we're proposing to do is deepen the edges of the existing navigation channel, and that will improve shipping efficiency and port capacity.
And just to describe what the bottom of the Burrard Inlet looks like right now. I mean, when you say the navigation channel, is there a deepened portion of the inlet where ships can travel?
Yes, so currently vessels, transit through that area of Burrard Inlet. It's the second narrows. There's tight restrictions for navigation through that area. What we're doing is deepening the edges of the existing navigation channel. And so that allows, for example, those existing Aframax-sized tankers that
Hmm.
currently are calling Westridge Marine Terminal to more fully load. They're currently draft restricted, which means they can only load 70 to 80%. So by doing this dredging work and removing some of the material on the edges of the channel, that allows them to more fully load.
And what does dredging actually look like? What's involved in it?
And so essentially, this work is removing marine sediments from the sea floor. And typically, you do that through clamshell dredging equipment or a barge mounted excavator to remove those sediments from the edges of the channel. What we do know is the seabed is made up of sand, cobbles, and gravel. And so that's what the work would entail.
And how long would this take in order to dredge it to the point where the tankers could be filled to 100%?
So currently, the works are in the regulatory review phase, and the description of the work really is the edges, and it's about a footprint of under 2 hectares, and that's about, I'd say, a couple meters deep over the entire area of the dredge work. And so we're going through the regulatory review process right now. We would only start the physical works if we were issued the permits and authorizations that we require, and that work would start later this year.
All right. And what happens to the material that's dredged up?
So we need to still go through a procurement process, but we do expect the material will be removed and managed at a licensed upland facility. These would be marine sediments, and so it would be a facility that would be licensed to receive this type of material.
Okay. And if all of this goes through, Charlotte, how do you plan to minimize the impact on the environment? Because I suppose when you're scraping the bottom of the ocean floor, you're likely to encounter marine life.
Right. So as I mentioned, we're currently in the regulatory review process, and what that means is we've done some physical assessments to really understand what's on the seabed. So I mentioned it's sands, gravels, and cobbles, and also typical conditions that you find in deep subtidal areas in the Pacific Northwest. So the work includes mitigations to protect the environment. And one main mitigation that I can give an example to listeners is we would be proposing to do the work in the least risk window to protect fish and fish habitat in Burrard Inlet. And that would be conducting the works between August and February of any given year.
Okay. And what conversations or consultations have you had with First Nations about this?
So we are committed to early and ongoing consultation with First Nations, and we have been doing that. We'll continue to do that through the regulatory review phase that we're in right now and through every stage of the dredging works.
And the Tsleil-Waututh Nation specifically has been working on numerous projects to restore the shorelines and seabed around their territory in that area. What plans are in place to protect those efforts if this dredging proposal goes ahead?
So these works certainly will have mitigations and they'll have conditions that we must follow should the permits be issued. So we're going after a project and environmental review permit from the Port Authority, as well as Fisheries and Oceans Canada will issue a Fisheries Act authorization. So we'll ensure mitigations and permit conditions are in place to protect fish and fish habitat in the area.
And the Musqueam and the Government of Canada have also signed an agreement that will see the Musqueam's roles in fisheries and stewardship and marine emergency management change or take on a new role, in fact. What discussions have there been with the Musqueam Indian Band?
So again, we have been consulting with nations on the specific dredging works. I can't speak exactly to that agreement, but we'll continue to consult with Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh and other nations as we proceed through the regulatory review process.
Okay. So there is a public engagement period underway. How does that work exactly?
Yeah, so I'd encourage listeners to check out the project webpage. It's the Second Narrows Dredging Works webpage, where the public can learn about the dredging work and provide feedback, ask questions. This period has been going since February and goes through till March 20th. So I'd encourage folks to check out the website.
And then after that, what does the rest of the regulatory process look like?
So we'll move through the process with ongoing First Nations consultation. Should the decision makers issue permits, we could be potentially commencing the work later this year in the fisheries list risk window.
Okay. And how confident are you that the Port Authority is going to get the permits to do this?
You know, we do in water works projects like this. We certainly have to respect the process. It's rigorous, and we'll continue to provide input and feedback to regulators as we go through the process. And we'd like to proceed with the works this year.
Charlotte, we'll leave it there this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your time. Thanks. That is Charlotte Olson, the Acting Vice President of Infrastructure for the Vancouver Port Authority.